thank you, panelists, for being willing to come and talk about what I think is one of the most important crises facing our young people, and that is the mental health crisis. I want to ask you each to just talk a little bit about how you come to this work. A rapper, Uwill, people might not know what that is about, and who knows what's happening in Jackson Public Schools. Why are you here? How do you come to this work?
I have a personal relationship of discovering the situations and difficulties and impact of mental health. After the whole Run DMC stuff, walking this way in my Adidas to tell the world how tricky life can be. Life got real tricky.
These people are not. Yeah. Are y'all not catching this? Oh, all right, come on.
Yeah. Long story short, 1993, when Down with the King came out, Down with the King, they put Run DMC back on the chart, back on the road, back on MTV. Right when that happened, I woke up the next day and I wanted to kill myself. But before that, I was an alcoholic, suicidal, metaphysical wreck. Then all of a sudden, I got depressed and wanted to kill myself. Then I found out that I was adopted. Then Jam Master Jay got shot and killed. And then my father Bifer died. So you can imagine what I went through. So fortunately, I went to rehab to stop drinking. That's where I discovered therapy. And then I came out and people would see me. And hip-hop is about keeping it real. So I saw no shame or no weakness and saying, DMC, man, I ain't seen you in a long time. Where you been? Well, I just got out of therapy, and I was in rehab, and I was thinking of killing myself. And when I would share that with people, two things would happen. These people would go, sometimes they would go, DMC, I've never told anybody this. Me too. So that meant they was walking around their whole life struggling, not telling anybody, and the only reason they're telling me is because DMC just admitted it. And the other one was, DMC, I've never told anybody this, but my mother, my daughter, my father. So I realized me not being ashamed to have a conversation about, conversation is the thing that could get people to have the confidence and courage to go heal themselves. So I've been through a mental health journey. Here I am.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I just want to say up front, I've presented with Darryl many times. I'm used to not being as good. So, don't worry about it. It's cool. It's cool. It's totally normal. I'm an education technology entrepreneur first and foremost, and years back, I wanted to do what I felt was the most pressing issue within K-12 and higher education, and that was to support the students. So early on, we said, what is it that is most critical to those students? And that was to give them a level of immediacy that they couldn't get anywhere else. And that's what we did. So we work with more than 100 K-12 schools, a few hundred colleges, and we just help the students in the best way that we know how, using tech, but using good people, and they're our own people. So we just feel good about that. And personally, like a lot of us here, I've had mental health issues, certainly within the family, and I've been a mental health advocate for a sibling my whole life. I know what it feels like to not have what you need, and I just don't want other people to be in that situation. So thanks again for giving me the chance to be here.
So I come to this work with two lenses. One as an educator, as a career educator, leading a school system, but then another as a dad, and both I think equally important and really unique lenses. And reflecting early in my career as a beginning school administrator, adopting a program of social emotional learning, one of the key insights that Dr. Mark Brackett shared was that social emotional learning and this work of mental health supports was for everyone with a face. And when you think about that, literally the work of mental health and support is for everybody with a face. And it really, as a systems leader, means supporting the adults in being really good emotional role models for our students. modeling the behaviors and dealing with their own trauma so that they can show up as their best selves for our children. But thinking specifically as my role as a dad, I think about my daughter and sharing in middle school some girls in her friend set who were cutting. And we're dealing with challenges of cutting and all of that, and being an open space where she could have that conversation with me so that I could deal with that, both with her and dealing with the pressures and how I show up to parent, but also being a support to her friends. I think about it, as a father of a young black boy, one who was born in the summer of 2013, and I recall driving home from a class weekend. I was getting my doctorate at the time, and making my way from Nashville to Jackson, and listening on the radio as the George Zimmerman verdict was read and shared, and thinking about my son who was unborn at the time, and just reeling with the impact of this challenge, this charge that I would have to raise a young black boy in America, and all of the challenges that would impact. And then fast forward to his young adolescence, as he now is starting to lose his baby face, as he's sporting a little mustache, and that he's also wrestling with a diagnosed mood disorder. And so struggling to handle situations that are pro-social, and wrestling with my own responsibilities to parent him in a way that keeps him alive. And so thinking about those dual roles and trying to create a school system so that my child is seen and supported and loved in the way that his mother and I love him, and that all kids in our system have the supports that they can have to thrive and to stay alive, not just to stay alive, but to thrive.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. We talk about these young people as the anxious generation, according to Jonathan Haidt. I was at the bookstore this afternoon, and there's the disengaged teen. All of the narratives about our young people are deficit-based narratives, and we talk about them as a result of what adults have done, right? These are young people who have been targeted by social media to be addicted to their devices. These are young people who, Jonathan Haidt says, have been overparented, and so they don't have the resilience and the independence that folks need. And every day, these kids are thugging it out in the streets, trying to figure out how to get an education, be social, and what have you. So how do you think about young people in this moment? What are you seeing from the young people that you interact with, especially as it relates to mental health? And I'll ask you to start us off, Michael. London.
Sure. Well, that's a really good question, and we're seeing a little of everything, but I almost want to touch on some of the things that you just mentioned because I think they're of particular interest. Oftentimes, when a student sees someone on social media winning, achieving, getting into college, making the team, making the all-star team, getting committed to a college for their sport, a picture with their girlfriend, whatever it is, that makes them feel badly. So they see other people with their successes, and they're often thinking about how, in particular, those successes aren't successes that they're having at that very moment. You know, they see people, you know, there's two friends just with their arms around each other taking a picture. Well, why wasn't I in that picture? Why wasn't I invited? What was I doing then? Hey, I think I was home. Why? I didn't know they were out. So I think that, you know, what we're seeing, you know, and I try really hard not to be clinical. I try to be real. We're just seeing real life stuff that students are feeling all the time. They're feeling it when they're really young now, right? Because not that any of us parents would allow for this, but there are, you know, 6, 7, 8-year-olds on TikTok, right? So they're seeing this all the time. They're seeing the most beautiful people. They're seeing it all, and so they're just not feeling perfect about themselves because of the good things that are happening to others. And they think in some weird way that they're just not achieving at the same level as their peers.
I also think one of the problems, excuse me, is that kids listen to everything. They pay attention to everything. When they're confused and when they don't fit in, when they have doubts and stuff like that, they think there's something wrong with that. But also, they look at adults who say, man, if I don't have that car, if I have that car, I'll be better. If I don't have that body, if I don't look a certain way, if I ain't doing this, if I ain't like all the rich people and the billionaires and stuff like that, they hear us talk. And then they're thinking on their level, okay, if I'm going through what Michael's going through, what about me later? So we got to make the children understand that, number one, you have everything necessary for you to get through whatever it is that you're going through, but a lot of times the situations that Uwill was created for is not available to them when they're first going through their trauma. A lot of these adults going through these problems were young people that were traumatized the same way the kids were, if you understand what I'm saying. And they got to feel comfortable talking about how they feel. And one of the things that helped my generation, now the typical rapper was 12 to 25 years old. That's young. And even though we might have not been having conversations directly, when we was given an outlet like that microphone, we was able to speak on the situations affecting us emotionally. What I'm trying to say is the message was a mental health record. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me, it was a call for help. It was a plea. Don't push me. So everything that these kids are struggling with and fighting and devalues what they have, the message came out and said, this is how we all feel. And what you got to understand about the message, it was young people not just writing about them, they was writing about what they saw their parents going through with the 9-to-5s and the social communities. Then Soul Sonic Force, they made the record Planet Rock, which was vision. Okay, it's messed up, it's crazy, it's unemployment, stuff like that. But we know a place where we could go. The problem with our young people, at an instant, like Michael said, they don't have places to go. One of the things that I discovered that us adults, we have a bad habit of when the youngest of the young, you know, the elementary school, come and say, I want to talk about, you know, these feelings that I'm having. And it's very mature stuff. We have a habit of going, don't think like that. You're too young to think like that. Not realizing you just damaged that kid. Because when they get to the, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they remember when he was 4 and 5, an adult screamed at them for feeling that. So psychologically, they thinking that emotion is wrong. So when it comes to them and we ain't around, oh, let me cut myself, let me drink, let me lash out at you, let me lash out at myself. And if I don't want to lash out at you or lash out at myself, I take the other road where I just going to kill myself because I don't want to deal with this. We got to get to a place where it's cool and okay to talk about your emotions, young people, the same way if I sit here and I'll go, my tooth is hurting, you're going to say without hesitation, go to the dentist. Yeah. And like you said, for the teachers, we're dealing with mental health issues, but teachers ain't afraid to talk about the physical things or the academic things they see with our children. A teacher's got to be able to speak up. The same way Miss Peterson in 2nd grade noticed something was wrong with Darryl, because when he looks at the backboard, he does this. He was squinting. So when my mother came to pick me up, without hesitation, she said, Miss McDaniels, I think Darryl needs glasses, because my mother took me to get glasses. The young people need to feel comfortable in real time talking to all of the adults that's around them. The problem is they think these emotions make them weird. And when I was in therapy, I found out why I was drinking so much. I was diagnosed with suppressed emotions. Because the first thing my therapist asked me Michael, when I got in therapy, when I sat down in rehab, he asked me this question. I'm 35 years old, but they said, Darryl, during your whole career with Run DMC, did anybody ever do anything to upset you, make you mad, or get you mad and upset? So I'm sitting in front, and I go, no. And my therapist, the coolest thing ever happened, he got real with me. He was a white guy, maybe about 45 years old. He had the long white cloak on, and he had the doctor's, pamphlet, in the chart like that. And I go, no. He said, he stood up, started unbuttoning his thing, and I'm like, what, he's gonna beat my butt or something? And he put it down, he took his glasses off, and he sat down with me, and he looked me in my eye, and he said, you're a goddamn Emma effing liar. And when he said it, it hit my soul. Flashback to all the trauma. Yeah, in 1985 when Run did this, in 1978 when my mom did that, and it all just poured out of me. But she also said you was able to get through a lot because you artistically expressing your feelings on a microphone was the release for you. Mm-hmm. So we got to set it up, like you said, in the school system. What he does in the house and what we do with our kids in our homes, we need to be doing that very same thing in the school system. Yeah. So not just so they can feel safe and comfortable, so they can have confidence and courage to address the issues themselves. We need to allow them to lead us to a system, because sometimes when we come in and forcefully assist them, they shut down.
London wants to get in here. What you got, London?
Oh, me again?
Yes. I thought you.
No, I was just liking him.
Okay, got it.
So
That's fine.
He's very
That's
good.
Go ahead, Cormack.
That's why Michael approached me. He saw me talking about it. Conversation breeds solutions to this transformation that children need. So Michael just saw me talking about it and said, hey, man, I got this cool thing called Uwill with it. And if I come and tell the kids, here's what I did, you can do this too. I went to a college to speak. None of this, and sometimes the colleges do have facilities there, but some of the kids need it now. You can't wake up in the morning and then they say, come see me Thursday. So Michael, he set it up using technology as an assistant so it could be instant. He saw me talking about it. He said, I can make this all I want, but if I have somebody that makes it cool, and he came to me and said, D, you want to work with me? Yes. Why? Because it's needed.
Cormack, let me ask you a question specifically about schools. Having run schools, I often feel like schools are asked to do far too many things. Teachers are asked to be counselors, psychologists, all the parents, all of the things. How do you think about how we address mental health issues in schools without overburdening teachers and other educators?
I think it's a really huge question, Kai, because you're right. We do ask a lot of our educators, and rightfully so. Maybe it's helpful to just share one story. So one of the charges that I give our principals is to replicate this activity. So at mid-year, we have our principals print out every child's name in a school on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And so imagine going into a middle school cafeteria and every student's name is at the top of a white sheet of paper. And then below, the charge is for every educator that's in that professional development to write their name below a child that they know well. And by know well, we talk about, like, do you know their parents, what they like to do, a sport or activity, something deep about the child, not just, they take my class, right? And what was so powerful about this activity is that you have certain students with a list that are known by all of the adults in the building. And the challenge is those children whose name only has a single name underneath or has no names underneath. Right. Our students can't go through the experience of school not being known well by an adult and by a caring adult that knows something about them, knows to check in on them. It's because we had that caring adult, that caring educator in our life, somebody outside of our parents that we were able to lean into, a coach, someone familiar. And so I think that it's inherent on our schools to create a sense of belonging. I mean, because at the base it is like, do I belong? And do I have a sense and someone that knows me well, and creating that structure to do that? Because when I contemplate suicide or have an ideation about something, I need someone I can tap into, somebody who recognizes when my behaviors start to change. I need somebody who I can tap into. Michael made it really important about social media, and I think it bears remarking that, like, even as adults in social media, we encounter a little bit of envy. Like, I go to my Instagram and I've got PreK and app envy based on what I see, right? I mean, and so we're all experiencing this, and our children are not unique in that. What makes us a little different as adults is that we have this self-concept, we have some self-esteem, we have another tape, an angel on our shoulder helping us to manage these feelings and these emotions of envy, right? And what we do is we express that all emotions are acceptable, right? It's okay to feel a little sense of this, but it's how do we manage it? How do we regulate these emotions? And so instituting programs of social and emotional learning are so key, because it helps to elevate all of these emotions that are uncomfortable and that we have suppressed. And we can say, hey, we don't need to suppress that, we just need to be able to manage that. And so when I felt this feeling of comparison and jealousy because I wasn't in the Instagram photo, right? How do I manage that, and how do I do that so that it doesn't become overwhelming?
Thank you for that. Not just in schools, at home, in the community, our young people are dealing with all of this. And our jobs in schools are to make them resilient, are to give them the skills to help them manage. What role do people play beyond the schoolhouse?
I guess everybody has a responsibility to be able to communicate or represent situations in the young people's lives. So one of the things that I did was I saw what my music was doing to young people when I first started. When I got into hip-hop, I come into hip-hop, you know, it was, you know, death, darkness, and destruction. It was gang banging and drug dealing and all that. But me, even in those neighborhoods, with all that around, everybody was rhyming about all the depressing stuff. And I was like, yo, even in those neighborhoods, there's kids playing in the sprinkler, double dutch, there's Skelly, there's kids reading their comic books. So when I get on the mic, I'm like, I can't rhyme about a gang because I was never in one. I can't, you know, brag about the things that the Hard Rocks and the Thugs, you know, I never sell drugs. I don't want to go to jail because I write my freedom. So I had to speak my truth. And I remember when I first made, you know, my first 2 records, we did It's Like That, That's the Way to, and then we did a record called Sucker MCs, where the sucker was the guy running around doing all the bad stuff in the neighborhood. But when Run passed me the mic, I didn't know what to say, and I go, I'm DMC, and the place to be, I go to St. John's University, and since kindergarten I acquired the knowledge. After 12th grade, I went straight to college. Now, when I sat down in the record, years later, this guy calls into the radio station, and, you know, I'm on the Old School at Noon or whatever. He's like, yo, DMC, man, what's up? My name's Peanut, man. He said, let me tell you something, man. When I was young, man, I was confused, and I was sad and depressed, and I ain't have it all. And, you know, I was selling drugs, and I was running with the wrong crowd and stuff like that, but I was loving this hip-hop music. You know what I'm saying? And it was guys that looked like me and sound like me from the place that I'm sounding about, talking about good things like it's cool. He said, man, when I heard you talking about school, he said it wasn't just the way that it wasn't like you was preaching it to me. You just mentioned it, and it was like the coolest thing. He said, man, I had the Kango, I had the Gazelles, I had the Benz, and I had the Electric 225, and I was doing all this stuff. But here goes, you know, Run DMC and Mo D and Chuck D talking about school. He said, I realized I was lacking something. So he said, just because he heard a conversation from somebody from where he's at mention it, he said, man, I thought I had it all to go chain, but I knew I was lacking something. So he said, just from hearing us talking about education like it was cool, he went and got a GED. So now he was standing with his Adidas, his Kangol and stuff like that, but he also got the GED. But then he said, with that GED, they said I was able, because of this piece of paper, to go to community college. He said, I never thought I would be able to go through those doors. So I think what it is, we got to set examples in everyday situations for our young people, now so that they be prepared, like you said, when they get older. We get older, and we have a little luck on our sides, like you said. We got that other tape playing. Right now, they just got one tape, and they're recording everything that they see. So I said, you know what? If I was able to do that to kids that was like 12 and older, what am I going to do for the little kids? So I created a book called Darryl's Dream. And it's just a story about me in the 3rd grade wanting to say my poem. And with me wanting to say my poem, I get abused, bullied, and teased as corny, this and that. And, you know, I crossed my name off the talent show because I'm trying to be like other people. But immediately I felt something was wrong. And one of the key moments in the book is I want to do my poem. Sally and Charlie say it's the corniest thing ever, so to please them, I cross my name off it, but I feel bad. But I don't let them know, so I go home and I do one of these. Without letting my mom and them know, I go, Mom, what would you do if you wanted to do something, but you didn't, the other kids didn't want to do it, so you didn't want to do it? And she's looking at me like this. She says, honey, Darryl, you have to believe in yourself, follow your own heart. But she tells me that I still don't believe that. So I run upstairs. I don't agree with that. I want to be liked, and I want to be accepted. So long story short, it's Darryl's dream. I have this dream. 3 things in the dream happen to me that I wake up the next morning, and I go, I'm going to do my poem whether they like it or not. And I run back, and I go do my poem, and then I get a standing ovation. Now Charlie and Denise want to be my friend. There's very 2 people that's picking on me now. Yo, that was cool, because they saw I'm getting attention now. Can you teach me how to do poetry like you? And I could have said in the book, I ain't teaching you nothing. You would tease me. But I go, yeah. I'm going to teach you, but I don't want you to do poetry like me. You got to do poetry like yourself. So I think if we put examples, I'm bringing that up to say that our world is our households, our family, our friendships, and everywhere we go in our environment. The kids' environment is, even though they're young, emotions, problems, and situations are identical, but their world is their households, their street, their neighborhood, their backyard, their classrooms, and in the schoolyards. And let me tell you, in the you know this, in the classroom, all the emotions that we get on a daily basis from our marriages and home, they get it on those levels. So I think if we start talking about it, and one of the easy things that I do when I go talk to these little kids, a perfect example is fear. So I go, I've been in the music business 40 years. Hip-hop's been around for 50 years. I still get, and I say this, I still get scared before I go on stage. So now a little kindergarten and 5th grader is like, oh, so it's okay to be scared. Because the great mighty DMC still gets scared. So if we put these little examples at every instance where there's a situation of them going through something, it's affecting them emotionally and mentally and socially. But if we start working with them now, when they by themselves, they will have, you don't learn anything unless you experience it. We got to let them experience it, meet them on their level so that when it happens and nobody's around, they will have their other tape, I love that, running in their head.
Michael London.
So when you ask that question, you know, I can't help but think about some Facebook things that I've recently read. And over the last couple of years, I started to notice it more and more. I've actually had people that I knew 20, 30 years ago, and they're writing on Facebook that, you know, life isn't worth it. Or they're literally, and I don't know if that happened to other people. I don't know if I'm in a different crowd, but truly, I've seen it. I started to personally take responsibility to reach out. People that I barely have talked to since high school, and I'm pretty old. So this is it's a while ago, and you know, you have to reach out. So my point is, everybody has a responsibility in mental health. And so when I think about schools, and I'm sure you're gonna say this more eloquently than I, you know, it's the teachers and administration too. It's not just the counselors. So, you know, those individuals, they're seeing stuff all the time. So what are they supposed to do about that, right? They're not licensed therapists, but yet, you know, what level of training do they have? And if they don't have training, what good common sense can we give them so that we can make sure that everybody's helping someone when they're giving those signals?
So I want to kind of go back to the question that you asked about kind of the negative narrative about our students, because I mean, it's pervasive. But what I see in my work is I see kids that are achieving, that are thriving, that are really brilliant, and that want to support their peers in being healthy and making healthy decisions. We have a partnership in Jackson Public Schools with Teen Health Mississippi, and we train on a voluntary basis our scholars, our high school students, to support their peers through a program that we call Mental Health First Aid. And they're not trained clinicians, nor do we ask them to become practitioners, right? But what we do ask them to do is, and what we alert them to and train them on, are a sensitivity to when their peers' behaviors start to change, or a sensitivity to like being there for one another and reaching out and asking the question, girl, how you feeling? Like, or how you really doing? Right. And being able to, with cultural competence, be able to ask the question and to alert that trusted adult when things are not right? When things go awry, to that trusted person that can tap in for support. And it also means training our team members to do the same, to be there as emotional support for our students. Again, it goes back to everybody with a face needs to be able to support mental health supports, and we have to erase some of the stigmas that have existed in our communities around tapping into therapeutic resources and others to make and to build structures that support all scholars thriving.
Thank you. So as our wrap-up question, this is a room full of educators, technologists, investors, all people who in their day-to-day work are trying to figure out how to help our kids be resilient and how to support them in thriving. What is the one sentence, what's the one sentence that you want to leave people with as they think about building a resilient generation?
Conversation is important. Collaboration and conversation, collaboration, and cooperation will bring about transformation in all of the mental health issues affecting us all.
Come on, I like it.
We got to work together with teachers, parents,
okay. London.
Schools and students deserve mental health support, whether they can afford it or not.
Amen. Well, there's a clap for that.
There it is. I think it means every child needs a champion. Every child.
Y'all join me in thanking the best panel ever for their commitment to our young people and for sharing with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.